The macabre, the exploitative, the trashy. Welcome to an all-new series called Below the Bottom of the Barrel. Now, with a name like that, you know exactly what this series is going to entail. A deep dive into some of the most foul, low-down cinema that has ever been produced, left to rot in grindhouse theaters, or getting a home video release seen by the very few that would even dare to tread into these waters. So basically a look into the least known cases of cinematic mediocrity that have ever been put out. If Gen Z Reviews is the good in the perceived bad, this is the bad in the actual bad, if that makes any sense at all. Now I could think of perhaps no better movie to start this series with than Zombies: The Beginning. This 2007 zombie flick was brought to us by this guy, Bruno Mattei. If you know your bad movies or have even watched The Cinema Snob for years, you know who Bruno Mattei is, one of the most notorious Italian directors, known for his exploitation cinema that ripped off other movies, ripped off soundtracks, everything. He was to Italian cinema what Godfrey Ho was to Asian cinema, although he's sometimes called the Italian Ed Wood. Zombies: The Beginning was the last film Bruno Mattei ended up doing before his passing the very same year in 2007. Mattei was no stranger to zombie flicks and had previously done films like Hell of the Living Dead, and he had his hands in Zombie 3's messy production. There isn't really anything about this film's production that I can find and talk about. I did find an interview with the film's lead actress Yvette Izan. I'll put a link to it below. It's worth a watch. Now let's roll film and scrape below the bottom. Oh, sorry. I think we started with somebody's home movie being shot from a helicopter. Don't worry, they'll find the letterboxing somewhere down in the depths. The main character, Sharon DeMao, is being rescued following the events of the previous film, Island of the Living Dead. You don't really have to know that movie to understand this one, or attempt to understand. I'll probably get around to that one at some point, but for now, let's admire the helicopter whose rental was probably most of the film's budget. Now, sophomoric acting is nothing new in Bruno Mattei's work. In fact, a lot of it can be really fun, like a Claudio Fragasso movie. This
island exists. It's still there, and it's populated by those things. I saw those things down there.
That is enough. This hearing is over.
Is something else. Nobody wants to take Sharon seriously about what had happened leading up to her rescue, and so she retires to become a Buddhist monk. During her time on one of the spare sets from Bruce Leigh's Ghost of the Fox or some Yi Jung-ho leftover, she's approached by a man representing a company called Tyler Incorporated. Formerly a representative of Isaac Enterprises, he offers her a chance to accompany them back to the island as part of a rescue expedition. She initially declines, but then suffers a nightmare that makes her change her mind. We then cut to a submarine base and meet the squad that'll be with Sharon and Tyler Incorporated.
I heard that there's a problem on an island, and they called us. We're gonna resolve that problem no matter what it may be.
Maggot, you will be in this crossbreed of Hell of the Living Dead, Shocking Dark, and Zombie 3. Do you candy asses understand that? They all board Renard's submarine from The World Is Not Enough, or as the stock footage would actually tell us, Crimson Tide.
Big, McLarge, huge.
They all then reach the island and depart.
Okay, my group. We're gonna take the left.
If you haven't caught on yet, this entire beginning, as well as stuff you'll see later, completely rips off the plot points of Aliens. Now, exploitation's very heart and soul is kind of playing on something that's happening in cinema or in culture, but Bruno Mattei was the master of ripping off entire scenes, ripping off parts of scripts, ripping off soundtracks. He ripped off everything. This film is one of his most blatant examples of this. The soldiers infiltrate the base and report back to Sharon, who keeps in touch with them. A lot of this is just the soldiers wandering around, all surmising about what happened, showing the obvious up-to-no-good corporation that's there is up to no good, all with acting and line deliveries out of a David Dakota flick. And honestly, with how brain-dead these soldiers are, they're better suited for the events of zombie-ass Toilet of the Dead.
There it is! I can see it! Open fire!
Don't start firing like idiots, you're gonna kill the Chef Boyardee beast. Come on, that's just Chucky's and Tiffany's newborn kid from the end of Bride of Chucky wanting a hug. Stop being so dramatic. They shoot the thing, there's some more talking and walking around, then the soldiers move to another location in the facility. Everything about the pacing in this is so insipid. Although, gotta give it to Matei, still knew how to make a good-looking techie set. Then they have a chestburster scene following that because there simply wasn't enough taken from aliens already. The zombies then come out in droves to attack, and rather than barricade the door or give themselves enough distance, the soldiers do the opposite of that.
Go! Go! Let's get the hell out of here! Go! Go!
I really hate to bring up Hell of the Living Dead again, but I think the main characters in this movie graduated from the same school that those characters graduated from, and that's the school of not shooting zombies in the f***ing head. Everybody, including Sharon, gets the hell out of Dodge, trying to flee the onslaught.
Just get out of here! Man, what the fuck are these things? Maybe you haven't quite noticed it yet, but that important species you're talking about just kicked our asses.
They didn't kick your asses, you all just suck at your jobs. Honestly, besides the whole aliens thing, the whole plot of this movie feels like the kind of reverse of Day of the Dead, but Day of the Dead if it was written by people working for Full Moon. So they figure they gotta get the hell out of the place despite what the Tyler Corporation wants. So they get their stuff fixed so they could be sending out an SOS to the submarine. They talk about how it could be a few days before it reaches anybody. Tyler Incorporated wants some samples of the zombies, and then the main characters come to the realization that the corporation was actually bad. Gasp! The zombies attack once more, and the Crimson Tide stock footage receives the SOS. Not a shock, but most of the soldiers die from being stupid. Sharon is the only one then left standing as she makes her way to the final boss stage of the movie, and you know she'd probably be a lot safer if she didn't have a vacuum hose on her gun. She comes across some creatures that look like the one on the cover of Blood Incantation's Hidden History of the Human Race. Oh, this is where the Yorukai are being made now. Saruman must be cutting back costs. And Mother Brain from Metroid is behind everything. Good to know. Man, this would all be so much cooler if Michael Ransom was shooting alongside her. Maybe in my dreams. Sharon destroys the brain and the stock footage blows up and the movie ends. Now that we have scraped below the bottom, let's wrap it all up. Zombies the Beginning got no theater release as far as I could tell, being a home video stinker that didn't even get a proper US release until 2015. This movie is the perfect embodiment of Bruno Mattei as a director. The hokey acting, the lifted stock footage, stolen music, awful dubbing, lack of sensible pacing, everything. This wasn't even the man's first rodeo with ripping off aliens, having done so back in 1989 with Shocking Dark, aka Bruno Mattei's Terminator 2, a movie I no doubt will look at in this series, and one that didn't get a proper US release until many years after it was put out. Even the poster for this completely rips off Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead, aka The Gates of Hell. Now, I watch bad movies all the time, but this was a movie so bad it actually caused the inception of this series. I immediately started taking notes upon watching it, and that normally does not happen with me when I sit down to watch movies like this. So I gotta say thank you, Bruno Mattei, and do not worry, I will get around to a lot of his other work like Shocking Dark, maybe Strike Commando down the way, which is my favorite of his movies and arguably the best I think he's ever done. Now please, for the love of everything, do not consider this series a 100% dig at the people that made these movies or were in these movies. It's mostly for fun. It's just, there are bad movies out there, and I just want to deep dive into them and hopefully try to give them some more exposure, because even if movies are reprehensibly bad, they're really fun to watch. And thank you for watching.